Hey guys, WilliamJustice here. I make videos on Davinci Resolve and Fusion. Are you guys ready to create some warp animations? This type of animation is really a lot easier to create than you think, and I'll be showing you in just a second. Before we jump into the warp animations, I want to talk real quick about a comment I got. I really enjoy all your comments. I love reading them. I think it may change a little bit of how I approach the channel and maybe some of the things I do. So stick around and I'll talk about maybe some of the future and some of the things I'm going to be doing, or at least trying to do. All right, the inspiration for this idea, it was kind of around Halloween time. I was maybe trying to think about doing some scary kind of videos. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I saw this thing with these long fingers, and that looked kind of an interesting effect, maybe kind of scary kind of thing. And here's what I came up with. It was just a real quick experiment. With the fingers growing and everything like that, it kind of made me think about maybe like a tree or a plant growing. So I wanted to create a animation of a tree growing, but I thought a tree was not quite as interesting, so I kind of wanted it to grow into something else. So this is what I came up with a little bit of sound effects. Okay, I hope you like those animations and think they're interesting, but I hope you're not going to be disappointed with really how easy this is to set up. The bulk of it is done with just 3 nodes, and I use that kind of over and over again to create some of the different effects. If you're enjoying my videos, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Stick around to the end and I'll tell you a little bit about one of these comments I got and how it's going to affect my approach to this channel. To get started, I'm going to show you how to set up the basic pencil animation using the grid warp from Resolve, from the free version of Resolve, and the warper from Resolve Studio. All this is done in Fusion and it's pretty easy to set up. After I show you the basics of how the animation works, I'm going to show you how I cut out the pencil and animated it on top of the video that I created. And then we're going to set up the tree animation with the leaves growing out of it. So to get started, let's click on Effects and we're going to drag in a Fusion composition and get into Fusion. Click Fusion at the bottom of the screen. We're going to add a background and merged into the media out. I'm going to take this pencil right here. This is a pencil graphic I created, and we're going to merge it in right on top of the background. To do the animation, we move this pencil through a warped area. So to do this, after the media in 1, we're going to add a transform node, and we're going to take the pencil and we're just going to move it over a little bit. So this transform is going to position where the pencil goes. After the transform node, we're going to add a grid warp, and we're going to hit Control Space and type in grid warp and add that. So now we have our grid warp. The grid basically allows you to move things around and warp any graphic or any input into it. Really what's going on here is we just take this transform and we move the pencil through that warped area. Let's reset the warp and kind of try to get it a little bit nicer. So we're going to bump up the grid size here, and we're going to change the magnet type to selected. There's really a lot of different options here. You can kind of play around with it to get the effect that you're looking for. So we're going to take this and we're just going to warp it a little bit, and we'll move this one over and we'll put that one like that. And you can take these handles and move it around to adjust the way the warp looks. And we'll pull this up a little bit. Just kind of messing around with a few different options. And we'll click on this merge node. And all we need to do now is to get the warp going is to animate this transform 1. So you can see the pencil is moving through the warped area. So all we would need to do is set some keyframes and adjust the timing. Okay, so this is using the grid warp. The other option is to use the warper node. So let's take the pencil and add it in again. We're going to merge this in right here, and we're going to add 2 transform nodes to this one, and we're going to add the warper node. All right, so the first transform node actually moves the pencil through the warped area, and the second transform node can do some adjustments of the position and angle. So if we wanted to angle the pencil like that, we angle it and we can adjust the Y position on the first transform to move it through that angled area. Now I had not used the warper very much, but it does a pretty good job. So with the warper selected, all you have to do is click on the screen and you're going to create this little point here, and you can drag this point to adjust the warp. So you keep putting these points in, so we might make it a little thinner here. We can take the tip and kind of move it around like that, stretch this up. Really, you can do whatever you want. It takes a little bit of playing with it to get it to look right, especially on these things that are really bent. You need to move some stuff around And that's pretty close. Just kind of a basic idea there. And let's pull it in here like that. So you just keep adding points and adjusting how the graphic is bending. And it works the same way as before. We click on the first transform and we adjust the Y position and the pencil is moving through the warped area. I didn't find a way to animate the warper. Maybe there's a way to do it, but I couldn't find it. With the grid warp, you can actually animate it. So if we click on the grid warp, to animate the grid warp, we would go to the first node and right click here for mesh animation, animate, and we'll go over like say 60 frames or so. And we can adjust these warp points, really do whatever you want to with them. I'm just going real quick here, but you can really fine tune this. And when we play this, you'll see that the pencil warp is actually changing as the animation plays. So this is one of the advantages of the grid warp. Maybe you can do it with the warper, but I was not able to find a way to actually animate these points. Okay, next I'm going to show you how I cut out the pencil and set this up on the video that I created. We're going to take the video I made with the pencil and put that into the timeline area. And we're going to scrub through here and try to find an area that has the pencil in good focus. Okay, there we go. So we're going to animate this pencil. In the video when I created the animation, I actually used a tracker to stabilize the footage and animate it on top of that. But for this one, we're just going to use a freeze frame because it's going to go a little bit faster, just so you can kind of see how I did set this up. Select the clip in the inspector. We're going to open up speed change and click the little freeze frame icon. I'm going to right click on the frozen clip, say new Fusion clip, and let's get into Fusion. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out this pencil and create a long version of the pencil. So to do this, we're going to take a matte control node and take the video and put it into the matte control. And the matte control is going to allow us to cut out and kind of mask out a portion of this. So let's zoom in here. We're going to cut the pencil right around there. So we're going to take this polygon and put it there. And I'm going to do this pretty rough. We're just going to cut out the pencil. May take a little fine tuning, but that's pretty close. Probably good enough. And then we're going to take the polygon and put it into the matte control, into the garbage matte. And let's take a look at what we have. It cut it out. So we want the pencil part selected, the pencil tip selected. So we're going to the polygon and we're just going to invert it. As you saw in the other animation, we need the pencil to be a little bit longer. First thing we're going to do is get a transform node. I want to rotate this so it's vertically positioned. You can probably just do it pretty rough here. All right, so now what we need to do is, now that we have a vertically positioned pencil, we just need to kind of copy it a few times. So let's take a merge node after this transform. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the transform and we're going to merge in a copy of the pencil on top of the pencil, like that. So we're going to take the first transform, we're going to move the pencil down, and we're going to stretch the overlaid copies up. So we're going to go to this merge node, and we're just going to move this copy up. And you can see we got our pencil stretching out. It's getting a little bit longer. There's probably several different ways to do this, but this seemed to work okay. And we're going to do this one more time. So with the merge node selected, we're going to add another merge. Take this, merge that pencil on top, and move it up. Let's make sure we select it. All right, so we got a nice long pencil there. So that's one way to create a long pencil. You could do it in Photoshop, or there's probably a lot of different ways to do it. So we're going to take all of this, and I'm going to select it and hit Control-G to group it, and let's call it pencil. Okay, now we're going to take this pencil, and we're going to merge it back on top of our media in. What we're going to do is we're going to animate this pencil right on top of where the other one is. So let's add in a transform node, then another transform node, and let's get it, first thing is to get it positioned. So we're going to take the second transform node and we're going to adjust the angle, get it to line up pretty close. All right, so the top transform node is going to be used to extend the pencil, and we're going to adjust the Y position to extend the pencil. The bottom transform node is used to move the pencil into place. So like when I wanted it animating out of my ear, I just moved it over to where my ear was. So we're going to move it back into position here. So select the second transform, we can add a warper or a grid warp. So let's try the warper. And with that selected, we're just going to start making some points. So what we want to do is click on here to kind of set some anchors, and then we can start pulling it around. And sometimes you need to pull the bottom back like this to kind of get it to adjust the way you want it. And we just keep making some points and adjust the thickness. And we'll pull this around a little bit. Not too great. If these points don't work out, you can delete them. You select it and hit the delete key. And that's a little bit more like I wanted, right? Like that. And you notice it kind of pops out here. So this is one place where you need to make some adjustments to pull it back on top of the underlying pencil. This is overlaying it And if we move it down too far, it's going to start covering up the pencil below. So all we need to do is add a quick mask. And we can do that on this merge. So we're going to add a polygon here. And we're just going to click around here to mask off the part that we want to see and then merge that in. Okay, so we just need to pull it down a little more. You see there where sometimes it helps if you click on that, and we'll blend it in with a little bit of soft edge. And there we go. It looks like we can make an adjustment there. That's where you would go in with the warper and kind of pull it up a little bit to make it look a little bit better. It's just all how much you want to play around with it. And once it's set up, we can just animate the Y position of that top one, and we have a warped pencil. All right, let's do the tree animation really quick. So we're going to go into Effects and bring in a Fusion composition. Stretch out the length of it just a little bit. And let's get into Fusion. I'm going to add a background node and connect that up to the media out. So we have a black background there. It could be whatever color you want. And then I have a tree graphic. So let's bring in this tree graphic, and we're going to merge that in so we can kind of see what it looks like. Okay, just a basic tree. So for this one, I did a similar thing with the pencil. So let's take a rectangle mask and bring it in and attach it to the media N1. And we're going to stretch this out a little bit and bring it in there. That's probably pretty good. This one seemed to work pretty well with just a rectangular mask. If it was an object that had, like when I did my fingers, I actually moved around my knuckles and kind of shaped it a little bit differently. Now we're going to basically do the same thing that we did before. We're going to take the media N1 and we're going to add a merge node. And we're going to take the tree and merge it in with itself. And we can take this and move it down. Now, one trick here is that you see when we move it down, the pattern doesn't match here. To get the pattern to match, all you need to do is go to the merge node and flip, and you'll see that the pattern kind of matches a little bit better there. Let's do one more. Let's move this up, add a merge node, and take the first tree and we're going to merge it in on top there. And go back to the merge node, and we're just going to move this one up a bit. And we're going to move it all the way up, and we're going to do the same thing where we flip the pattern like that to kind of get it to match up. And we could do some little blending and soft edge there as well. All right, so now that we have our tree branch, I wanted to kind of create a little point at the top for the end of the branch. So let's go to the transform one, and we're going to drag this down a bit so we can see kind of the top of the branch. After the merge, we're going to add a warper node. You could add a grid warp to kind of make the end of the branch, but let's try the warper. Control space and warper. Now all we need to do is go to the very top here, make some points, and let's see, we'll select the warper and try to pull this in a bit to make the point of the tree. And we can take the background and make it transparent now. Okay, so that's not too bad. We're going to take this whole thing right here, put that together, and we're going to hit Control G, and we're going to call it branch. So that's our tree branch. Let's take another background and connect it up to the media out. And that's going to be our base background. And we're going to take our tree branch and merge it into the background. Now what we need to do is the same thing we did before. We're going to add 2 transform nodes, and we're going to add a warper. So the first transform is used to move it, to extend the branch, and the second transform is used to position it. So we can move the branch over here, and let's angle it a little bit and bring it down. That's pretty good. And we'll go to the warper, and we just start warping. And we got a kind of a tree branch. Now, if you want to do the next branch, take the branch and copy it, and we do Control-Shift-V to paste an instance. And we're going to merge it in, add our 2 transform nodes and our warp. And we're going to have this branch kind of coming out of this other side here. So let's go to the second transform, put it right there, kind of put it close, angle it a bit. Here's where you want to do is you want to figure out how far you want it to be extended. So let's say extends right about there. Go to the warper, we can start warping. So typically you kind of want it to follow the same line as the other tree and then kind of branch off a bit. Really, you can do whatever you wanted to. And this is where I actually adjusted it and tried to make it warp and bend into letters. I'm going to show you how I did that in a second. If there's some extensions or things that you don't like, you can take a mask and put it on here, and I can mask it off right like that and say that's the part that I want, merge it in, and you can see we're at there. And this is where you would want to make some adjustments. We can warp it back in a little bit to kind of match up, and select this rectangle down here and adjust the blending mode. And to animate it, all I did is went to these top transforms and just moved them. So there we go, we got the branch coming out of the tree. Okay, let's take a look at how I created the Resolve text tree animation. It's a little bit more complex because there's a lot of moving parts, but it all uses the same fundamental setup. So let's get into Fusion. And you can see what I have here is I created a group for each of the letters. So we have the R, E, S, O. Each section here is a piece of the animation. So for example, if we go to the S, we'll click on this transform right here. And just like before, we can adjust the Y position. And you'll see that this branch is coming out and right around like that. And I just used the warper to create that. And then the next piece over here is this transform. And it just does this little piece on the very end like that. So there was a main branch and then everything took off from that. So like the whole main branch of the O starts right here. And this is this tree animation. And you can see it pulls down. This is what starts the whole thing. And that comes up to form that part of the O. And this transform kind of closes the O off like that. And I set up this tree. This is the group that had the animation, or this is the group that has the tree trunk in it. And then everywhere I use this wireless link, and the wireless link I just connected to this warper 1, which is what's at the very end of the tree right there. And after this was set up, I actually rendered it out and then animated the leaves on top of that. So now I'm going to quickly show you just how I put the leaves on there using the particle emitter. All right, here's the rendered resolve right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this and do new Fusion clip. And let's get into Fusion. Putting the leaves on here was pretty simple. I just used the particle emitter. And so we're a tree. Let's take this leaf and bring it in here and just merge it in so you can kind of see what we have. This is just a basic leaf graphic right there. So we're going to add a particle emitter and a particle renderer, and we're going to merge that in. And we want the particle emitter to emit the leaf. So let's go into the emitter, and we're going to go into style, and we're going to say the style is bitmap. And we get this little input here. We're going to take our leaf graphic and slide it right in there. And there we go. We got a bunch of leaves all in this region. So we need to want the leaves to go all over where the text is and where the tree is. So we're going to go to region. That defines where the particles are emitted. And we're going to set the region to bitmap. And we have our green input. And we want the bitmap, the region, to be the tree. So let's take the media N1, which is the tree, and put it into the emitter region. And we're going to get leaves all over our tree. Okay, there we go. So we got some nice little leaves. They're a little bit everywhere right now. We're going to fix that in just a second. So let's go into the emitter, and we're going to adjust the size. So let's go to the style, size, and I want bigger leaves. So let's make them pretty big here. It takes a little bit of playing with this to get it the way you want it. And we're going to go into controls. So let's go to the first frame and set it to 250 leaves right there. We're going to hit a keyframe on that and go to the next frame and set it to 0. So basically the leaves are only going to be created on the first frame. And we obviously want the leaves to grow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the emitter, go to style, and the size over life right here. So we're going to start the leaves out really small, and then they're going to get bigger as they grow. And that's what this curve is right here. So this is over time. So this is when they're first created, and that's the max age right there. So right now the leaves are set to 100 frames. So the first frame, and when we play the animation, you're going to see the leaves are going to start growing. We don't want the leaves all positioned the same way. So we're going to go into the emitter and rotation, and we're going to adjust the Z variance. And you're going to see that the leaves are kind of positioned at different angles. And the last thing is we want the leaves to only be where the resolve is. And what we're going to do is off the media N1, we're going to add a matte control node. And we're going to do this kind of similar thing that we did before with the garbage matte. We're going to take this this rectangle, and put it into the garbage matte. Cutting out that, we're going to invert it. And it's going to only put the leaves inside of where that rectangle is. And we'll move it over a little bit. And there we go. We got leaves on the tree. And the only other thing I did was off of this media N1, I animated the leaves so it kind of rocked back and forth. But that's kind of the basics of the tree grows out, then the leaves grow into the tree. You don't have to create all the leaves on the first frame. You can kind of do them over time, so they kind of they all grow in at different times. But this is just a little bit easier to kind of demonstrate it. It takes a little bit of playing with to get the tree full like you want it. We've got this warp growing bendy animations, turned it into a tree that grows stuff. All right, I want to talk a little bit about comments here. Actually, comments are really important to me. That's kind of one of the ways that, that's how I improve and how I learn how I'm doing. One of the comments I got a while back was from Tun Timatoan. And he said, "I don't think you're capable of doing a bad video." I really appreciate the comments and the support and that everyone likes what I'm doing. But it kind of got me thinking, I think I need to do some bad videos. I think I've been a little bit too comfortable. I've been kind of doing the same thing. I think I need to stretch out a little bit more and try to learn and go into some of the areas that I'm not as comfortable with. So I'm not going to make bad videos, but some of the videos they may not turn out exactly the way I want, but I think that's okay because it's all about learning, and that's been one of the goals with this channel, is for me to learn and to kind of share with you what I'm discovering and learning as I go. So I really appreciate the comment, and I think it's going to make this channel a whole lot better and a whole lot more interesting as time goes on. Thanks so much for watching, subscribing, and liking this video. Like I said, I really appreciate everyone's support, and I look forward to making some really interesting videos coming up soon.